Let me spend a minute to warm the stage for the next speaker, and that's Wan Ling. And let me say, with a lot of professional admiration, that what Wan Ling has done over the last 2 years to this Zone AOA is simply amazing, absolutely outstanding. Here is a zone that has so many good things going for itself on a fundamental level. When Asia is such a safe bet, sub-Saharan Africa has been a long-standing performer for our company. So these are countries, these are markets that hold so much promise. And we've had such a long track record in them. And yet, over the last few years, they've given us a good share of trouble. And she has moved about very decisively, very aggressively to set things straight, and I think we're seeing the results. And this zone, I think, is rightly now getting the attention and getting the outside recognition and value that it truly deserves. In doing that, what I particularly admire is the combination of three things. One is, when things weren't going right, to take very aggressive, very decisive action and to put things straight. And I think this is in line with the approach that we're practicing elsewhere now too. Second, in markets that are growing naturally, when it's not about micromanaging, when it is about letting the bulls run, well, you let the bulls run and you encourage them. And I think this is what she's been doing in a very successful way. And then third, in Asia, without a good and winning digital strategy, in our industry, it's over. And hence, being well-versed in this digital environment, being one of the thought leaders, I think, was particularly helpful to her in navigating some of these opportunities. This is also what part of her presentation is going to be about, how we're using digital and how it's deeply embedded in those business models to drive our competitive stance there. And again, in summary, it really amounted to a stunning, stunning recovery and turnaround for that zone. Wan Ling, that was my stage warming for you. Looking forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you here in the room and to those of you following us on the webcast. And a special good morning and a good afternoon to my team, Zone AOA, who is watching across 3 continents. Delivering growth in an extraordinary environment. I'm going to take you through why ours is an environment that is far from ordinary, not just in terms of size and scale, but in terms of the pace of change that gives us lots and lots of opportunities. I will then give you some color on the self-funded recovery we have delivered, and last but not least, I will show you how digital is further enabling growth. So let me start with the environment. Asia, Oceania, and sub-Saharan Africa. A consumer base that is both diverse and complex, and yes, extraordinary. 92 countries across 3 continents, 15 time zones, more than 70% of the world's population, and 80% of global birth. In many of our emerging markets, more and more of our consumers are digital natives, embracing digital in all aspects of their lives. E-com in China is a perfect example. The scale is simply huge. One of our partners, Jingdong, which is JD.com, reaches more than 940 million Chinese consumers. They deliver 90% of their orders on the same day or the next day. But this is not just a China story. Year on year, internet users grow by 23% in India, in the Philippines by 27%, and in Indonesia by an impressive 50%. The lack of fixed-line infrastructure means our markets are mobile first, and in some places, effectively mobile only. In Africa, there are estimated to be close to 1 billion mobile subscriptions, and in Asia Pacific, 4 billion. What you may not realize is a lot of our consumers, especially in Asia, are very comfortable with sharing economy. The picture here shows a Gojek driver. Gojek is a car-hailing company that also delivers products and services to your home or your place of work. Meituan in China, which is a food delivery company, is another example of how fast new trends can develop and get scale in AOA. I mean, it's massive. on average, every day, there's over 10 million orders placed on the platform. That's 10 million a day delivered. This is transforming the out-of-home business, blurring the line between eating out and eating in. Imagine the implications for a food and beverage company like ours. This is where our Nestlé professional team can play an important role. We're also witnessing a huge expansion of urban areas across the zone. Large numbers of people are migrating from countryside to the urban areas. According to the UN, within 13 years, this will create 276 new cities of at least 500,000 people. Again, the opportunity for us is clear. In our zone, the number of older people is growing fast. We're seeing a growing gap between the average life expectancy and healthy average life expectancy. The reality in my zone is that there are extremes. So on the one hand, you see an increasing number of elderly people. On the other hand, you see a huge population of young people, many in our markets. And so for instance, in Africa, more than 40% of the population is under the age of 15. I mean, that's incredible, more than 40% under the age of 15. And within those markets, extreme differences in household income. So one-size-fits-all strategy no longer works for us. Our business models have to be tailored to the consumers we serve, and clearly city strategies in many cases rather than market strategies. One feature of our zone that we're keenly aware of is the huge challenges many families face. Most of the world's stunted children, or children who are too thin for their height, a condition known as wasting, are in my zone. We can and we do help address these issues by providing affordable nutrition. The biggest product category in my zone is dairy. We served last year over 100 billion servings of micronutrient fortified foods, helping tackle deficiencies in vitamin A, in zinc, and in iron. This is what we call creating shared value, helping families at the bottom of the pyramid, a business opportunity for us by providing affordable products that offer good nutrition, but at the same time contributing to the communities that we operate in. So I hope you can start to see why AOA is an extraordinary zone. Vast societal challenges, unprecedented pace of change. The pace of change is so fast. Innovations are actually, in many cases, ahead of Western societies. And then there's always other issues that happens anytime in my zone, whether it's conflict and natural disasters, to unrest, or simply just disruption to normal life. But we are well positioned to seize these opportunities, and let me show you why. We have a balanced portfolio by both category and geography, a real unique mix of global and local brands. The breadth and depth of our portfolio allows us to reach many, many consumer segments. We have the highest trust scores in most geographies, and most importantly, we have the right people, hugely talented and resilient, extraordinary teams. Let's have a look at all of this in more detail. Nestlé and AOA had sales of $22.5 billion in 2016. You can see balance in terms of category as well as geography. Dairy, I mentioned earlier, is our biggest category, representing close to 40% of our sales. Pet care, as you can see at the moment, is small, but we see huge upside. There's clearly still much more to do from a geographic standpoint. Take a look at the geographic pie chart. Southeast Asia, with a population of 640 million, the pie is much bigger than that of India, with 1.3 billion in population, and the same size, about the same size as Greater China, with 1.4 billion folks. We have a unique mix of global and local brands. Some of this might look foreign or sound foreign to you, so let me pick out 3 examples. Tai Le is a culinary business based out of Shanghai in China that has sales of more than $1 billion as of today. And so, well, you'll hear some of my colleagues call it Totole. It's actually one and the same thing. It should really be pronounced as Tai Le. Bear brand, which is on the second line here in the middle, that's approaching 1 billion in sales, Swiss francs. And I will challenge any of you, if you know what's so unique about Bear brand in Indonesia, come up to me during lunch break or during coffee break, and there will be a prize for you. Milo, it's already a billionaire brand. You know, that's 1.5 billion across my zone, and that's last year. These brands are part of people's lives every day, consumed throughout the day from morning to night, from birth to old age. I'm a perfect example. I grew up in the Philippines drinking Milo. Today, I continue to enjoy drinking Milo. For many of our consumers, if you stop somebody, a Filipino in Manila, they'll tell you Milo is their local brand. You stop somebody in Singapore, and they'll tell you the same thing. Same thing with Maggi in Malaysia. Portfolio that reaches all consumer segments. Who else can offer the breadth of portfolio that we have? Take coffee, a core business for the zone. We have coffee for every price point, coffee for every local taste variant, and coffee for every style of consumption. So just fantastic. I'm happy to say that we enjoy high trust scores in many of our geographies. And this is because in many of our markets, like Mark mentioned, we've been there. We've been part of the fabric of the local communities. In the Philippines, in Japan, in Malaysia, in Singapore, in India, the list goes on. We've been there more than 100 years, more than 100 years. In the fast-changing environment that we see in AOA, we know it's important to be consistent. We know it's important to be reliable, committed to the highest standards of safety and quality. Trust is the foundation on which we grow our business, and that trust is earned day in and day out. I've mentioned it a couple of times already. My team, our AOA people, are simply extraordinary. Every day across the zone, they face volatility, and they manage it incredibly well. Let me give you 4 examples. In India, at least 5 of our peer group companies have already warned that the GST reform will impact the results. My team in India is not using that as an excuse, although I'll be the first to admit the impact is very meaningful. This year, India's organic growth will be impacted, will be lower by 525 basis points because of GST. But they're doing a remarkable job, and doing everything they can to offset the GST impact. A second example is Japan. Faced with an economy that's been in deflation for close to 10 years, our Japanese team has completely rewritten the rules, completely innovated in a very different way. You've seen in my presentations in the last 2 years, Chocolatori was born out of Japan. You've heard me talk about matcha green tea for our Nescafé Dolce Gusto machine. You've heard about Nescafé Ambassador program. Our Japanese team, in the face of deflation, has delivered mid-single-digit growth in the last 2 years. And then there was devaluation in Nigeria. The Nigerian naira devalued by almost 35% last year and dropped a further 20% this year. The strengths of our brands, supported by strong distribution and in-market activation, resulted in improved market share and improved RIG. There remains a lot of volatility across sub-Saharan Africa. In addition to devaluation, we have problems accessing hard currencies, political instability. I think there's about 14 elections in Africa this year to slow economic growth. But we continue to grow amidst this volatility. And then the last example, that was flood in the Philippines beginning of this year, was a massive flood in one of our big major factories. Typically, in a situation like that, it would have taken 1 month for the plant to come back online. But our team, our Filipino colleagues, got it up and running in a week with 0 supply issue, 0 quality issue. Just incredibly proud of the team. It is the resilience of our people that allows us to turn the many challenges into opportunities, and it is their effort, their hard work, that has helped us turn the corner and help us return to growth. Need I say more? So now let me turn to the second part of my presentation, which is how we have returned to growth while maintaining our margins. I stood in front of you last year and I made a few commitments. And I'm happy to say that we are delivering against those commitments. Does anyone notice what's funny about this picture? Yes, no. The Milo boxes are upside down. So I asked the team, I'm like, why is it that the boxes are upside down? And the team told me that it's because they don't like the products to settle while they're being moved, transported in trucks. What did I tell you? Extraordinary team. They have an answer to everything. We are delivering sustainable growth. We all know several years ago, top line was challenged, was under pressure. This is no longer the case. I love this slide. More good news. Growth acceleration was underpinned by market share recovery. And we have done that by stepping up our engagement with consumers, innovating beyond products, adding service layers on top, and within our own house, we have improved our processes that support demand generation. So it is important to see that this recovery, self-funded, we have reignited growth while maintaining our margins, around 20% of underlying profit margin. So let me give you a bit more color on our recovery. I've shown you this slide before. I know it's ugly. It's our operational roadmap for the zone in 2017. And let me now highlight some of our building blocks. Yes, let us start with Yinlu. I'm pleased to say that we are making good progress. During the year, we transitioned from our minority shareholder partners to a Nestlé team. This has enabled us to have better alignment and better execution. We're also working hard to restore the relevance of our core products. So Congee is now back to growth. Nescafé Real Ready to Drink is still growing at double digit. And peanut milk is still wobbly. It's still a bit of a challenge, but good progress with a great team in place. And we still have a ways to go. Our other businesses in Greater China are also on track. We continue to grow Nescafé, which is the #1 coffee brand in China, through premiumization. In our confectionery business, which is Shu Fu Chi, which you see on the slide, efforts are underway to decouple our businesses over dependence on Chinese New Year. And last but not least, in terms of Tai Tai Le, it has returned to growth. And also last year, we had a successful transition from a founder CEO to a Nestlé colleague. This is the first time we had a Nestlé person running Tai Tai Le in the last 17 years. Sub-Saharan Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa is today a strong contributor of growth for the zone, double-digit growth with good RIG. I spoke earlier about people's needs for affordable nutrition. Close to 700 million people on the continent, 700 people on the continent live on less than $10 a day. In fact, 61% of Africans live on less than $2 a day. We are very committed to Africa. 58% of our sales in the region are from what we call PPPs. It's popularly positioned products. Products like micronutrient fortified Maggi Cube. Let me pause here. I think it was 5 years ago in 2012 when I was doing my H1 presentation, I asked a question. This is how I do Q&A. I do the Q and you do the A. How many cubes of Maggi do we sell in COR, which is Central West Africa region, a day? Okay, no, so come on, 5 years ago, you didn't know the answer. 5 years later, nobody knows the answer. It's 110 million cubes a day, 110. Clearly, PPP segment is the growth engine for us. Well, we were busy with India and China. In addition to Sub-Saharan Africa, our Southeast Asia region stepped up, and that is Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, and delivered strong growth, 7% OG in 2016. Special shout out to Vietnam, who delivered 20% last year, Indonesia 14%, and the Philippines 7%. This was driven primarily by our understanding of local consumer needs. For example, ready to drink is a big trend. So we are accelerating Milo RTD in all markets behind the lunchbox consumption occasion. In the Philippines, we're launching new RTD formats. Bear Brand, for instance, what you see on the slide, Bear Brand Yogu was launched in February of this year. And in 6 months, we went from 0 market share to 16. The response has been simply overwhelming. I was in Vietnam in May to inaugurate a new Milo RTD plant in our new Bong Seng factory. It's amazing also, like the plant was completed ahead of schedule and came in under budget. Amazing to see that in just a few months, that plant is today operating at 85% capacity. Next one is pet care. Mark talked about pet care. Pet care is a $7+ billion category for my zone, with increasing growth, especially in emerging markets. For AOA, it's a huge potential given the low levels of pet ownership, as well as caloric coverage. The category size in China is $2 billion US and growing very fast, mostly driven by e-commerce. We are clearly underscaled in Asia, and this has started to change. We're giving it increased priority, investing behind the brands, accelerating in e-com, especially in China. Our early results are very encouraging. H1 growth, OG, was 6%, this is after years of flat or negative growth. So our NPP team is off to a good start. And premiumization. Nescafé Gold mixes have been reinventing white coffee in Southeast Asia and are now being rolled out across the 3 continents. On the shelves now in South Africa and will be in Oceania next year are Nescafé Gold mixes. With one aligned concept, product, and packaging, we're maximizing the benefit of what we call above the market synergies. We are also driving distribution deeper into rural areas. We've added nearly 500,000 distribution points over the past 18 months, with significant increases in China, in Thailand, and the Philippines. We're also looking at new models for route to market. In Pakistan, for instance, we're using our milk collection centers to sell as point of sales to promote our PPP portfolio. We're also increasing the number of SKUs carried per outlet. So in Nigeria, for instance, we're increasing the number of SKUs from 11 to 26. So this means not only more outlets, but more profitable outlets in our markets. In Pakistan, our team, in partnership with Telenor, has pioneered the adoption of mobile wallet solutions. This is transforming the lives of dairy farmers. It's creating a cashless supply chain in a country where only 15% of the population has access to banking. Bringing the basics of digital and financial literacy, where before this was just unthinkable. Empowering women in areas where only 5% of women have these opportunities. Plans like this help us reinforce financial security of farmers who supply us. It's a win-win, creating shared value while securing the sources of future growth. We have reignited growth by having the courage of our convictions, having the courage to make the right people choices, having the courage to make the right investment choices, knowing when to double down and knowing when to pull back, pushing the envelope, including in terms of communication. One of the markets I'm really proud of is South Africa. They're doing a really great job in turning the business around. I want to show you an example of a communication which I think shows bold thinking. This ad is helping us turn around Cremora, which is a key brand in South Africa. I think this advert is bold because it takes people back to a time when life was not so easy. Some people might say this is really a risky move, but this is done with great understanding and empathy for our Cremora consumer. The execution has been great and the results are strong. The power of good storytelling really never fades. So have a look. Moving on to the last part of my presentation, I want to take some time to highlight to you how growth has been and will continue to be enabled by digital. In China, I continue to challenge the team. We really have to accelerate in digital. And you can see on the slide, we are improving our market shares in e-com ahead of the category in almost all cases. Today, we manage e-com in a more integrated fashion across different categories better than before, and this is producing results. Data. Data allows us to drive relevancy at scale in ways that were never possible before. So let me give you an example. Alibaba has about 460 million consumers on their database, at least as of the last official count. So based on their shopper behavior, some are tagged as coffee consumers. Now, we at Nestlé have our own profiles of consumers of Nescafé drinkers in China. So now we're matching our own data with that of Ali in the data bank. Our targeting has become a lot more effective. In fact, around 3x more effective. And so what you see, this programmatic banners that's on the screen, are generated automatically from different components. So there's the image, the product, the slogan. So for example, if in our consumer profiling suggests that you as a consumer prefers milky coffee, the technology will make sure that you see a milky coffee product on the banner. The levels of personalization is just extraordinary. This campaign has more than 70 banners in total. So put together, it adds up to a highly targeted campaign, a highly personalized communication, creating more impact more efficiently. Augmented reality. AR, as you know, is a way for us to create excitement and buzz about our brands. Today, literally today in China, we are running a coffee festival on Tmall. The campaign uses AR to kind of attract and excite young consumers. Consumer can send a friend a Nescafé gift set that includes a replica TV set. They can upload a video on Tmall, and so when the friend gets it, they can watch the video on this replica TV via their smartphone. This is an example of merging digital and physical. This morning when I woke up, breaking news from our team in Beijing. Beijing is 7 hours ahead of London. And this program, as of midday, had 266 million impressions. That's 266 million, not thousands, million impressions. And as of noon, the sales of our Nescafé coffee, compared to the last program we ran last year, has already exceeded the record they did last year. So it's just amazing if you get it right. We are also pioneering voice, partnering with others to bring new services to our consumers. The team in China is launching what they call Xiao AI. Xiao is small AI, a nutrition and health assistant. So you can ask it for nutritional advice, you can ask it for recipes, you can ask for music while you enjoy a cup of Nescafé. This is very much still in its infancy. It's really an experimentation. We have created content from 5 business units, from our Nescafé business units to our nutrition, our Nestlé Professional, Tai Le, as well as Nestlé dairy business. Consumers are getting Nestlé branded advice. And so you can ask, is it healthy? Is it good for you to be drinking coffee? And you know what the answer is. So voice is a new frontier, and we want to be in right at the very start. Content creation. We are creating long-form content to capture the hearts and minds of our consumers. In Siwar, our Central West Africa region, our Maggi team created a web series which ran for 30 days during Ramadan. It was more popular than any other series in the French-speaking region, which is just like unbelievable. A truly integrated campaign, combining product launch, in this case it's Maggi Arome, multi-channel, multi-format activation. The investment in the web series and media buying were a fraction of what would have cost us by doing a traditional campaign. The takeaways for me, smaller markets can innovate just as well as bigger markets. In fact, smaller budgets stretch you, to get a lot more creative. And to me, great ideas are everywhere. And don't let anyone tell you that analog is dead. It is not dead. People still collect vinyl records. Well, I don't. But people still want real-world experiences. The experience economy is both a combination of offline and online. Disconnect to connect. This was the campaign behind our pop-up cafe in Taiwan featuring Nescafe mug that blocked out signals to mobile phones. Here it is. Killer, give me the, I came prepared with my show and tell. So this coffee mug will basically block out any signals. So when I don't want to answer any calls, I put my phone in here and tell my colleagues, ooh, I'm not getting any signals. But we challenge young people to stop the internet, to be a real friend. This, ladies and gentlemen, is breaking conventional wisdom. Because conventional wisdom would tell you that you cannot possibly get millennials to disconnect with their phone. This is a digital campaign with an offline experience. Over 3 weekends of our pop-up cafe, thousands of Taiwanese, 7,000 to be exact, fought their way through the rain, the wind, and the cold to join our call to make real connections. And people say big brands cannot connect with young people. This shows you we can. Participatory advertising, first to know, first to tell. Earlier this year, Nestlé India launched a limited edition range of noodles with local flavors, tapping into a growing interest that younger consumers in India want for tourism, for local food, for food festivals. We partnered with Google to help us build buzz for the launch, at first by an F&B company, a food and beverage company on the subcontinent. So for a month, when you type in Maggie in Google, you will be invited to participate in a survey on which of the 8 flavors should be launched. I mean, it's amazing, 50 million impressions, 200,000 people participated in the survey. We created a lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation. 150,000 pre-orders for boxes of 12 noodles, pre-orders via e-com, much like you and I would reserve an iPhone online. At this point, the consumers didn't even know what flavors they will get in the box. This campaign delivered an incremental 130 basis points of market share, 130 basis points of market share. Online excitement held both online sales and offline sales. We sold 1 million packs. Q2 volume for our total noodle business in India rose 22% in the quarter. So we created news and excitement for the category and not just for the special SKUs. These examples show that we can attract younger consumers when we push the envelope creatively. So digital is clearly further enabling our growth, but of course, it's not just digital alone. We're combining these efforts with product innovation. Nestlé Wellness. Nestlé Wellness is a new program in Japan. Subscribers provide information about their health condition and then receive a matcha green tea capsules for their Nescafe Dolce Gusto, fortified to match their nutritional needs. This has tapped into an area that people are really interested in. We launched this in March on TV and soon had to pull the ads because we reached capacity. While we were off the air, the number of subscribers grew by 50% just by word of mouth alone. So far, we have 15,000 subscribers. The rollout has far exceeded our expectations. Increasingly, we work on merging online and offline experience. I've talked to you about Chocolatori many times and how much excitement it has brought to rejuvenate and premiumize our Kit Kat franchise in Japan. I'm happy to report that it's also successful, doing really well in Malaysia as well as in Australia. Chocolatori, and it's actually testing, we had a first test in Thailand. Chocolatori has created an online and offline ecosystem that drives growth. So for example, in Australia, Chocolatori inspires innovation in retail. We test new concepts, and whatever resonates well with the consumer, we bring it to retail. You see this example of the three tablets, Kit Kat tablets, on the slide. We've also launched corporate gifting, and so with an online catalog bringing the best from chocolatory plus some imports from either Malaysia or Japan. It is no surprise that Kit Kat today is the #1 confectionery brand in Australia. So kudos to the team there. The key takeaway for me in terms of how digital is further enabling our growth, 4 things. First, data is at the center of everything. Second, the blending of e-commerce and all forms of communication. Third, it's the convergence of online and offline. And last but not least, analog still matters. It really matters. But amidst the transformation, there are some enduring truth. The power of a great idea. The ability of a successful brand to brighten your day. And while some things never change. And this ad from Australia reminds us of that. It's hard to follow that, right? To sum up where we are today, my zone is very committed to remain one of the growth engines for Nestlé. I still get questions today whether growth in emerging markets is dilutive. The answer is no, no, no. We are accretive to the zone to the group in all dimensions. Our margins are 140 basis points accretive to the group. Cash flow as a percent of sales, we're accretive 600 basis points, and ROIC 700 basis points. We are bullish about our prospects because we've got the fundamentals in place to sustain our positive momentum. But we are not satisfied. We're challenging ourselves to do more. And we know this is possible because of the scale of the opportunity. Now, this is a different way to look at Zone AOA. The map here shows Nestlé Zone AOA sales per capita across the zone. The light pink shows where sales are less than £1 per day per person. Now, some might argue that, look, you know what, per capita sales are a proxy for per capita GDP, but we look at this very, very differently. Take Africa and places like Nigeria. Now, that's one of the countries where the per capita sales is 3 to 5 francs per day. That's in yellow. Our brands are part of consumers' life every day. We help address issues, nutritional issues, like lack of iron or iodine in their daily diets. This has allowed us to build a very sizable business of 600 million Swiss francs today. Then go to East Africa, and you see our presence there is more modest in light pink. And our team, I know, in Equatorial Africa is doing a great job trying to change that, and this year is growing at double digit. You go further east to Southeast Asia, and one can beg the question, can you accelerate brand penetration in Indonesia the way we've done it in Malaysia and in the Philippines? And clearly, there's a lot more we can do in China or India. I started by introducing you to some of our consumers across the zone. By keeping ourselves relevant in this fast-moving world called AOA, we can continue to deliver sustainable growth. What gets us excited is not just the size of the price, the millions of potential consumers for our products or our services. What gets us excited is delivering affordable nutrition, helping the African mother so she does not have to choose which one of her children to feed. What gets us excited is developing personalized nutrition for older consumers to help them live healthier lives. Above all, what gets us excited is making a difference in people's lives. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Zone AOA. I close by thanking my team, an extraordinary team that makes me extraordinarily proud. Thank you.